Welcome back to my channel, everyone. This one is going to be quotes number 7, and the quotes on this one is going to be called "Love is a composite of a single soul abiding in two bodies." And that quote was made by Aristotle, so it's over 2,000 years old, and I'm using that one to reflect the relationship that I am working on establishing with Hawaiian Honey. Now, Hawaiian Honey has agreed to work with me and to have the opinion that she is equal to me. She will not take a position that is subordinate to what she thinks I want. I'm trying to make it clear with her, and the agreement when she agreed to work with me was she will work on attempting to do the same things that I'm trying to accomplish by finding out how the Philistines had a society that went for several thousand years without fighting. And I think, in my opinion, that is very important for us to be able to reproduce as close as possible before we get off of the earth and start colonizing other planets and other territories that are not located on the earth. Once we diversify ourselves as Homo sapiens, if we have not perfected the relationship that males have with females, all we're going to do is carry some of our problems into the universe. And it is my opinion that is one very important thing, even as important as eliminating the tyrants on the earth, the murderers. I've already gone through several times talking about Russia and Iran, and how the leaders need to be removed, not because we don't like them or for anything else, but for the sole reason that they are murdering their own citizens. And no one can speak or stand up for the citizens to get murdered unless the world does it as a universe organization. That's why I've challenged the NATO and the United Nations in order to facilitate eliminating tyrants that are murdering their citizens. We can't have it. If North Korea is doing it also, he needs to be eliminated as well. And that is an important issue that needs to be accomplished also before we get out into space. We don't need to have wars where people are coming from other planets trying to raid the Earth, and the Earth trying to get to their territory and raid them. We have to be sophisticated and educated enough that we know that fighting is not the answer. Concept I have with Hawaiian Honey. If we have a disagreement over what needs to be done, we have to work it out. One person cannot make the rules for someone else and say, if you don't like it, I'm going to kill you. Or we'll fight about it and see who wins. All of those are not acceptable. So this basically 20 minutes is going to be just sharing with the people that I am not making much progress. I have done some research. I understand that Iceland is probably the closest one to having women equal in their society in the present day, but they think they have a long way to go. But when I read Aristotle's definition, it explained a lot of the answers that I wasn't able to put together. Now, if we look back over history, we know that the reputation of the Amazon women, although they did not have any writings to substantiate how they thought or how their society functioned, so they had that ability where the women were more equal than we hold the women in our societies. We do have different places. I hear the North American Indians had society that had the women more equal than we as Western Europeans, when we came to America, treated our women. But I am working with Hawaiian Honey. We're trying to experiment with different ideas, and she's being very cooperative with me, trying to understand what we're trying to figure out and do the best we can to come up with solutions that seem to work. And I have to admit that I always thought, and history records, that when Cyrus the Great was wounded and ended up dying as a result of his wounds, that was the remnants of the Amazon women as they were starting to work with men in the European or Greek societies. And that's where I think the Philistines came from, and I think they accomplished what I'm trying to find out about. And that was they had a society that was pretty equal with the women and the men. And from the Bible, I understand pretty clearly that it was a free society, not one that I call a slave society, where they had kings or queens or anyone else in the society that had advantages that other members didn't. Because if you'll just read the Bible, when King David was hanging out with the Philistines in order to avoid being murdered by King Saul, because King Saul was jealous of David. He thought David wanted to take over as king of Judea when he was gone, or king of Israel. And he was a Judean, and the Judeans did end up on the top of the totem pole. And David basically did end up taking over, but David, if you will remember, was going to take part in the battle that King Saul and his son both ended up dying from. And by the discussion of the people in the battle, it was clear there was not a king. The different governors from the different cities that had combined to have the war against Israel, I don't know what the conflict was, but I tend to think it was more on Israel's part, because as I have said, the Philistines wanted to get along with everyone. They did not want war. They wanted to work over and work around their problems. That's another thing that makes me convinced that they did figure out a way to work it with the women, and it worked out very successfully. But we don't have any written records that let us duplicate what they had so we can end up with the same results. Now, my experience is with the United States of America, and I know pretty well from the Civil War to the Second World War, we had brothels in a large part of America. Today, we only have one group of them in one county in Nevada. But back then, they were every place. And they even had a movie, The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, just before the Second World War was breaking out. And women had gotten a right to vote, and brothels were being eliminated. But just looking at the landscape, you can see the brothels were there to service men. So that tells me, and my experience in life is, I am much more sexually active than a female. Now, it is true that I had prostate cancer, and I don't have the ability to act the way I did. And some of the things that drove me in a very determined manner when I was younger no longer are a part of my life. But I do remember it. I remember the feelings I had. I remembered how I enjoyed it. and how much and what part of women I truly appreciated. But that was then, and this is now, and I'm trying to find a system that actually works where men and women get along very well together. And it is still my belief, if we are able to conquer that hurdle, we will be able to figure out a way so that we aren't fighting each other all of the time. I think there's something that women bring to the plate that prevents us from having to kill each other. Now, I don't know the answer, but what I'm putting out here on this video is a challenge. I think that every other nation on the planet needs to experiment. Doesn't mean they need to do the same thing. They need to try different things. We're going to be getting off of the planet within a generation or two and be in space. And so that means this is that the world has to come to terms with a way that will solve our issue of having conflict in the universe. And if we can accomplish that, we will have accomplished a major benefit for all of the inhabitants of the planets in the future. We need to eliminate conflict. We need to have a way that if it raises its head in the future, we know how to nip it in the bud, and that is to get rid of any individual that thinks he's in charge of a nation and is murdering his citizens. Needs to be eliminated quickly, not after 2 or 3 million citizens have been murdered, but after less than 100 citizens have been murdered. He is removed from office, put in a cage, or eliminated from the face of the planet. That needs to be done on a regular basis, and the sooner the United Nations or NATO gets that as their system and makes it effective and has a total system for doing it, we will have accomplished something. And I'm hoping that my ideas of a spaceship, some of those work well enough that the Federation takes over. And that means that once the Federation is in place, anyone in space that is doing the same thing, murdering their citizens, they will be eliminated as well, because the Federation will be in charge of all international problems of that type. If they got there on one of our spaceships, they are subject to the laws of the Federation. And the Federation is to have no slave societies and equality for everyone. And I did not put into it in my video, but the people that form the Federation and are in charge of it should adopt early on is any tyrant. My ability to work out with Hawaiian Honey an answer to this problem is not going to probably come in time to be a help or a contribution in getting the problem resolved that is in front of us. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization may be able to come up with something more positive and beneficial and state it on the record so that as we get off of the planet, we have already resolved the problem of ending all warfare. Now, I will continue working with Hawaiian Honey for answers, but answers come slowly. We have to thank all the archaeologists that are continuing to have new discoveries. I just recently read about the one of the 300 that were basically gay men that had some success, and in fact were the ones that defeated Sparta in the Trojan Wars. But they were totally eliminated in another conflict, and every one of them were executed by losing the battle. Now, these kind of things come up from time to time, and we have to thank the archaeologists that are finding this information. It is also possible that more information may come forth as a result of the history of the Philistines. But notwithstanding that, we have to remember that we're going to be moving forward at a pace that may be beyond what we can have answers for. Now, I have put in as much information as I know. I don't think that I'm going to be able to contribute fast enough and learn fast enough what the issues are. In coming up with Aristotle's quote on this makes me realize that the issues that a man and woman can be facing can be different and separate issues. That means that one couple can have one issue and another couple will have another. That makes it very difficult to have a uniform answer for everyone. But like I said, I'm only guessing that that was the reason the Philistines did not have conflict with their neighbors. They had a system where everyone worked together. So it makes it a little more elusive in my future investigation, knowing that the answer may be simple and I'm just overlooking it. But in the meantime, we'll keep digging and trying to find out. We will discover what is going on in history. And this, unlike my other videos I've done, I like quoting what happened in history. It makes it easy for me. I don't have to figure things out. I just rely on history as giving us the answers. But short of that, since I don't have them, we're going to have to search the best we can. And we will continue to search and understand how men and women relate and work together, and how we got to where we are, and how we can move forward and solve the issue where men and women are equal on the planet and get along and learn how to work out all their differences and solve any disputes they have without engaging in conflict. And without the fighting, we will have accomplished what I want. And short of that, we'll have to look at the different areas where people did seem to get along better with women, trying little different systems. We refer to them as terrorists. Any leader of a nation that has become a terrorist, that means he has murdered 3 or more of his citizens of his nation, makes him a terrorist. And all terrorists are eliminated from office. They cannot have anything to do with ruling a nation. The rulers of government is how one Homo sapien treats another, and no one should be treated by anyone in a way that that person doesn't want to be treated himself. So if he murders someone, he's begging for someone to take him out as quickly as possible. And in the meantime, I'll try to get back with Hawaiian honey, doing our experiments and trying to explore the different attitudes that men and women have to have in order to work out the differences together and come together as a unified unit of making sure that one Homo sapien does not have to murder another Homo sapien. We can all live together, working out all of our problems, and not have to fight or kill each other because we can't figure out a way to work it out, or we're unwilling to spend the time necessary to work the problem out. And with that, if I've gone my 20 to 30 minutes, it will be time to terminate the quote number 7, which is, love is composed of a single soul inhabiting 2 bodies. And that was a quote by Aristotle. And so this now will be the end of quotes number 7. And I hope to see you back at the next one. But for now, this is the end of quote number 7. Goodbye for now.